What's up you guys, Charles here and welcome back to the channel. So if you've clicked on this video, you probably already know what a dividend is, but I'm going to explain it just for the people that don't know what it is. Essentially, when you invest in a stock or an index fund, of which I recommend the latter, the stocks or stocks within that index fund sometimes pay out a dividend. Now this is essentially a sort of present for investing in their company, and it's a share of their profits they make. So if they make a lot of profits one year, they might up the amount they pay you. Now get disillusioned, this isn't a huge amount, but it's a certain amount of the share price, normally around 4%. But you've clicked on this video to find out how much you need to invest so that those dividends are able to cover you so that you can retire. So I'll get right into that now. Now I'm going to do two parts to this video. The first part is the amount of money you need to cover your living expenses, and the second part is going to be how much you need to cover your normal spending, because spending is a lot different to expenses. There's some things you need and some things you want, and sometimes you spend a lot on those things you want. Now the first thing you need to know is that dividends are normally around 4% for index funds. If you want to take an aggressive dividend investing strategy, sometimes they can be more, they can be 5, 6, 7, 8. However, I'm going to go for the more conservative and realistic one where you have got a diversified portfolio of 4%. Now, the average cost of living, and I'm taking London because this is probably the worst case scenario for the UK and most places in the world, to be honest, because London's a very expensive city to live in. The London average cost for a single person per year is £9,072. Now this is the average. For you it might be more, for some people it might be less. And since the dividends are paid yearly, for the most part, some of them are paid quarterly, but I'm going to say yearly, it means that those 4% that are being paid out by those index funds have to cover that £9,072. You multiply the 4% it has to cover by 25 to get 100%. So I was saying 9,072 times by 25 is 226,800. That's pounds. Now that number is the amount you have to have saved and invested in a diversified portfolio of index funds, which on average pays a 4% annual dividend yield. Now the 4% annual dividend yield is the percentage of how much you own. So they pay you 4% on the value of the stock you own. Now this is just to cover your expenses as someone who lives in London and is single. And this is to achieve financial independence. Financial independence is essentially having a passive income that covers all your living expenses. That number for most people will be around 226,000. Now that's a decent amount of money, but if you leverage the power of compound interest, you can actually get to that fairly quickly. And if you're rigorous with tracking expenses and investing the difference in stuff you save up for, then it's actually a lot easier to get to than it might seem. Now that's probably not the sort of retirement you want to have. The sort of retirement you want to have is lying on a beach with a pina colada, somewhere in the Caribbean, in Barbados. And to achieve that number, it's a kind of a higher number, as you might expect. After doing a bit of digging, I found that the average UK household spends per week £585.60. Now this is the average household, and in a bunch of households you have families. So if you're single, then that number might be a lot lower for you, but we're still going to go with that number as the average household spending. And most people spend stupidly and don't track their expenses, so the likelihood is you only spend money on meaningful stuff, so that number is a lot lower. Now as you may or may not know, there are 52 weeks in the year, so we're going to times this number by 52, and that amounts to £30,451.20. So this is your average spending during 1 year. So now from that number, that is what your 4% of dividend yield is supposed to cover. And this will allow you to do loads of things and travel for free, and this is the retirement you want. Although, to be honest, I don't know about you, but after a few weeks of lying on the beach, I'd be seriously bored and want to go do something with my life. But this is the amount that will allow you to have the choice of working what you want to do and not what you have to do. Now times that number by 25 and you get £761,280. This is your nest egg, or whatever you want to call it, the amount you have to have saved up and invested in. I recommend the stock market, but you can have it invested in other things such as real estate if you do house hacking. An amazing YouTuber that does this and explains this a lot in his videos is Graham Stephan. If you're in this sort of niche, then you probably know about him. Although he is American and the laws in America work differently than the UK, but I will go over stuff like that in the future. So if that sounds interesting, then consider subscribing. But back to what I was saying, this is the number you have to have invested. Now, a great book that I really recommend, I've recommended it before on this channel, but I honestly think it's like one of the most amazing books that I've ever read on personal finance and maybe understand not only money, but also things that actually make you happy. Because for a lot of people think that spending stuff on expensive clothes and expensive cars or whatever, that makes them happy, but actually it's just an initial dopamine when you're shopping, and this dopamine makes you feel like you're happy. So you might go in, buy this super expensive car that's now made you super poor, and you'll have that initial spike of happiness, but if you, a month later, it will go back to exactly where you were before. So I personally don't really buy expensive stuff. So in this book they explain that people have done studies and they find that most people, the things that bring them true happiness in the long term is giving stuff to people, as in giving something to a homeless person in the street or donating to the crisis in Yemen, for example, at the moment. And the second thing is investing in experiences. So this might be, I don't know, buying a few beers and going down to the pub with your friends, because you'll remember that forever and that will make you genuinely happy. Or it might be something bigger, like going to, I don't know, the Maldives, backpacking in India, something like that. Because those things you invest in, they might cost more, but they're things you'll hold forever. The book talks about different stages of financial independence. There's also financial abundance and many other stages, and it helps you calculate that number. And it tells you loads of stories of people who've made it and how they've made it, and different ways to increase your income, and loads of things. It's a great book. Now this book is Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. If you haven't read it, you need to read it now. Now it is 600-700 pages, quite long, but an amazing, easy book to read. I think there's a shorter version called Unshakeable, and on top of that, all the profits of the book go to charity to help his foundation, which is essentially feeding people in America. Now, if you've gained any value from this video, I'd really appreciate it if you did smash that like button. It really helps me and the channel reach more people thanks to the YouTube algorithm. But also, if you're interested in other things like money management, saving money, investing money, but also I'm planning on doing some travel and other types of videos in the future, then really do consider subscribing. That's possibly the best investment you'll ever be able to make. Anyways, thanks for watching and see you next time.